What's up, everyone? Episode 6 of Casa. I am super stoked and excited to be here with Mr. Wayne Chang. And I will tell you before we start this episode, usually it is at my crib, Casa, as all 5 episodes are, but this one, the 6th one, is actually at his. Here's a glimpse really quick.
Living room area, this is a place where I do a lot of thinking, a lot of chilling out, and friends entertain, but the view is pretty awesome. Kitchen, of course, we need an endless supply of Celsius. I've been drinking this for 14 years now. I should have spent the money on the stock, which has been outperforming Monster and Red Bull. And then this is, of course, the famous Porsche Design Tower feature where the cars come in and then they roll out directly into the living room, so your car becomes art. It's my work area. I sit here, do my calls, my conferences, see the view, but mostly I just see screens. The thing that they teach you not to do for your kids, I'm doing it all day. Master bath. Haven't seen this before. Take a break, nice view, bath, I need to use it more often. My fiance, Rachel, this is her workspace. So she takes her calls in here. That's why I have another one to take calls, just so we keep the sound barrier between.
You don't want to be a part of her calls, she doesn't want to be part of your calls. Exactly.
She actually has a better office. Like, she has a corner office with just surrounded by views. Mine's in the center of the house.
Yours is in like the closet. You go to the closet and go work.
And the housekeeper comes and bangs around like, I hear all that. And her workspace comes with like its own little mini fridge. It's like a little mini apartment here.
Yeah.
It comes with that little elevator where it just goes from the ground floor that you entered, and you can just send your luggage in here or ride in here with like really heavy stuff. Don't have to lug it down, lug it up the stairs.
When Wayne drinks like 2 martinis, he has to take that elevator.
Yeah. That's right.
I love the countertops, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Very nice. So if you come in here, you'll see the garage that's in your unit on this floor, which is really high up. And what they don't show you in any of the videos about the building is they actually have a very special app. In the app, you can, here, I'll show you what the app looks like. So there is a Porsche Design Car Elevator app, and you can request the car, and you can just go like this, and then you can request the ride down, and then if you press start, there's a countdown, and the countdown starts counting down, and then the door opens, this little robotic arm comes out, pulls the car in, and you're riding a tower of terror to go grab eggs. This is the second guest room. The view is pretty cool. If you go over here, you can see the Atlantic Ocean, you see the Fort Lauderdale's over there, Miami's over there. I love the views here. It's much more spacious than my unit in New York.
So when I stay here, I want to set up markers, so that way I can also write on here.
These are reserved for you.
Now that we're back, I just wanted to really quickly introduce my friend here, my dear friend, Wayne Chang. He is an innovator, serial entrepreneur, venture capitalist in the past, angel investor, philanthropist, and just an amazing dude. So without further ado, I probably did a bad job at introing you. Why don't you do a better one in a couple minutes, and then we'll dive deeper into your past.
Sounds good.
Cool.
I am addicted to startups. I've been doing it since I was 6 years old. Started coding around that time. First company, age 11. startups wasn't even a thing back then. That wasn't even a word. I just loved to create projects that other people find really useful. And I just never stopped. And every time a new wave comes in, I love to be part of it. So first one was with was a company called Scene Review, top 300 site. And then I was part of Napster with Sean Fanning and Sean Parker. That was a lot of fun. That's where I learned virality, and I learned what really pain points are and what solving something that people truly mattered. That's what they wanted. They wanted music. They wanted it fast, something convenient. And so when iTunes came out, it killed all of the P2P stuff, but they understood that. Then I was part of the Facebook saga with the Winklevozes and Zuck and that whole thing that's depicted in the movie Social Network. And then I helped co-found Dropbox. I was in the room with Drew and Arash and Paul Graham as we were interviewing for Dropbox. Lots of history, lots of stories there. And we can dig into any one of those.
Yeah, so my first question right off the bat, and this is probably what people are wondering, is how do you put yourself in that room time and time again throughout a young, like you're not that old. So how did you do that in a very short period of time?
I don't worry about the room. I don't worry about that at all. I worry about the impact, and I worry about like what is the thing that a lot of people really, really care about. That's my barometer, and that guides you into the room. But I don't really think about that. I think about what's the problem I'm solving. I can only say yes to so many things, and it's really not a lot. And so the quality of the problem has to be really, really high for me to say yes to it. And usually that just means like, is this something I'm building that a lot of people would use or impacts a lot of people?
Okay, so I understand that, and I agree with it, and I can see how you can value that so high. Yeah. But let me re-ask the question in a different way.
Yeah.
How are you finding these kind of opportunities? It almost seems like it's serendipitous. Like, how are you finding these really big opportunities, really big problems at the perfect time frame? Like, I just don't understand like how lucky somebody can get, even though I know it doesn't have to do with too much luck.
I'm going to reframe your reframing.
Okay.
In the sense that it's not a search for opportunity. It's knowing the latest trends that are happening in the ecosystem.
Yep.
And then if you're in the mode of constantly building, you naturally get the signals of the latest trends, and you actually get the signals of like, is this thing something that is within that trend? So like with mobile, that was a huge trend, and Crashlytics was one of the companies that I co-founded. And I think 3 or 4 years after the App Store opened, there was still no crash reporting. There was still no stability, no mobile performance, nothing. Apps are crashing left and right, and no one solved it.
Yeah.
Apple didn't solve it. Google didn't solve it. And so the opportunity is still wide open. And that was like, oh, here's an opportunity. It's a perfectly horizontal problem. Every single app maker, no matter what industry you're in, what vertical, if you're health or banking, whatever, they don't have proper like mobile stability, mobile crash reporting. And so it's like, oh, well, if we built that and we made it super lightweight, then there's a chance that this company could be at the nexus of the entire mobile ecosystem. And that's what happened. And now Crashlytics is on 7 billion monthly active devices, default in Android, and it's millions of apps. And if you're using an iOS or Android phone, Crashlytics is in there 16 to 25 times. Yeah. Yeah,
I used to work at a venture capital firm a long time ago, 2009, 2013. They made all the portfolio companies use Crashlytics.
Yeah, see, that's great. That's great. And
old school shit.
Yeah.
But I remember all of that. Like, even though I wasn't a programmer myself, I remember like having to talk about this.
Yeah, because it's very, it's almost a no-brainer. It's like you want to create something where it's like such a no-brainer concept that after you create it, the magic is in how invisible it becomes, right? So it's not like a prime buy or a buy decision. Like, oh, okay, let me set aside 3 weeks to implement this. Death. Yeah. You want something that's like, oh yeah, we're going to choose your cloud provider. You're going to choose your app framework, install Crashlytics, do something else. Yeah.
Makes sense. So let's back up a little bit. Before all this stuff happened, I know you highlighted some good stuff. How was Baby Chang like? Like I read Taiwan, I read like the rural upbringing. Talk about that for a hot second, just to kind of like move forward in the lifespan first.
Baby Chang, illegal immigrant, no green card, no visa. I was 6 years old. I came here when I was on a first time from Taiwan, didn't know where I was going. I was told to tell this person behind a glass, a glass wall or something like that. Again, first time being in the airport. And they said, just tell them that you're going to Disneyland. Just tell them to go to Disneyland. I didn't even know what that was. I was 6 years old. So I said it. And then so went and came and lived with my grandmother. I was 6. I was there till about 17, 18, and couldn't do anything because I had no social security number, which means I had no insurance. So all of the students got to do really cool stuff, go to Washington, D.C., all these little field trips. I couldn't do anything. And so that means that I was at home a lot. And my godmother gave me an Apple IIe when I was 6, 7 years old. And so I spent all my time like playing with it, went to the library, pulled out some books on BASIC, and I started transcribing some of those characters in the book into the Apple IIe, and that's how I learned how to program. And I started changing some of the programming around. I was like, oh, that's what this does. And so just that like feedback loop allowed me to start building stuff.
That was a defining moment.
That was a defining moment. I mean, if I didn't get that Apple IIe and it was like a baseball bat or a piano or something, it would be completely different. My entire trajectory would be completely different.
Where's your godmother today?
She's in Boston. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I go back quite often.
Okay.
And without my godmother's influence in my life, it would be totally different.
I'm sure she's heard that a time or two.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's I guess fast forward a little bit. How did you the first startup that you mentioned? How exactly did you join it? And were you like apprehensive, or was it like you dove right in, like you knew that this was it for you, the path?
Yeah, I didn't join it. I created it. I was 11 years old, and I created a site. And this was before Twitter. This was before the daily updates on CNN or things like that. And so it turns out people wanted news fast. And so we were providing really fast updates on the latest games that are released, latest applications that are released, and our traffic just kept growing and growing and growing. I was 11, and then right before I turned 13, we had a small acquisition of it from a different rival company. And again, no startups was no word, acquisition was really a thing.
How does an 11-year-old get an acquisition? Like, what does that even look like?
We were beating all of our competitors.
Like, here's $200,000.
Yeah.
Do not spend it all at one candy store. You're like, well, I'm going to.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. So like back then, I knew there was a lot of competing sites that was popping up about gaming and new releases and new products. And so 11-year-old me, 12-year-old me was like, oh, maybe I should partner up with them, and maybe I should get them to shut down their sites and then have them join our site. And so we started absorbing their traffic. We started absorbing more content and more great people. And so I found that as a strategy. It's like, oh, okay, acquisition and competitiveness, you can actually, if you partner up correctly, you can shut down a competitor while also absorbing all of their traffic and content. Learn that lesson really early.
You talked a lot about lessons already, like within a couple minutes. What is like, you think, what would be like your number one lesson in entrepreneurship that you really had to, unfortunately, learn the hard way? I guess let me rephrase the question. Maybe this will put off a light bulb in your head. If you were talking to your 22-year-old self about business, what would you tell him?
Partnerships and co-founderships is like the most vulnerable part of a founder's journey. If you don't maintain the co-founder relationship, if you don't maintain the trust, if you're not aligned, then the number one killer isn't the company losing money or not having customers or runway. It's or runway. It is the implosion from like a co-founder mismatch or conflict, or co-founder says I don't want to do this anymore. That is a lesson that most people don't really have. They buddy up with someone they meet in college. They buddy up with someone they just met or something like that. And then there's no real framework or no real understanding of like, okay, what happens if the other person doesn't really pull their weight? What happens if there's a disagreement? What happens if you guys decide you want to go in different directions? All that kind of stuff. If that's not planned out in advance, the likelihood of the company imploding from that skyrockets.
Sure, but I think what also is extremely helpful is voting shares. Also, maybe even vesting. So, but what you're saying though is like bad relationships happen in personal life, but also business. But with business, it's detrimental because all the shareholders get effed basically.
Yeah, if you have to depend on the voting rights, and you have to depend on things that are very legal, you're already screwed.
Right.
Yeah, that means you're already at that.
You're at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And
Makes
so
sense.
it's like the contracts are good to protect, but it's the enforcement of the contract which brings all the headache. That's the litigation that becomes like their lawyer gets involved. It becomes a really bad thing.
It's kind of like having a seatbelt when you drive a car.
Yeah.
It's like you put it on because you want to protect yourself,
Yeah.
but you don't plan on
Using
crashing.
it. Yeah,
you don't plan on actually using it, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
99.99999% of the time.
Yeah.
So
But you have to be comfortable. If you're a founder, you have to be comfortable being a crash test dummy.
Right.
You can't just like, I'm gonna wear the seatbelt and have no experience of what happens if you get into a little scuttle, right? You have to like, how do you recover from that? How do you handle that situation?
Right. It makes total sense. What about like founding, like on the other side, like you've done a lot of investments. Really quickly, was it 80 plus investments? And is it? And also, side note, I've seen it's all over the place. Like I've seen that it was like a tequila company, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Watches, tequila company, software, SaaS, enterprise. Like, what is the thesis behind your angel investments, at least?
Yeah. 80 plus companies, 30 something odd exits.
Which is crazy high, by the way.
Thanks. I can only be in so many sectors personally, and for me, I want to have like the little antennas in as many different sectors as possible. That feeds my internal thesis of like what the trends are, what's coming, right? And so you have the smartest people in each of these sectors innovating in those sectors, and then I get the opportunity to just be a small part in their journey, help whatever I can. Right. But then I also get a peek at the future of that sector, and then through a founder who's actively 100% thinking about that sector. Right. So I collect that, and then that gives me that overview of like what is the most important, and keeps me up to date across many different verticals. So the thesis on the angel side is mostly how can I be helpful with the smartest people, but at the same time, it informs my worldview. That's
an expensive habit, though.
It is expensive.
Yeah, but I totally see why you would do it, and I love the way that you actually phrased it. Yeah. Made it sound actually really exciting, which it is. You definitely get thrills from angel investing, but not so much when it goes the opposite direction.
But you can only lose 1x.
Right.
But if you make it, it could be way more than 1x.
Right, which is power of law.
Power of law.
Yeah, and that's extremely noted in the venture capital and venture world in general, because if you have 2 or 3 hits that are big, it makes up for the 10, 15, or 20 that are lost. Yep. But a lot of other asset classes don't really work like that, nor do they look at it that way. So it's a very strange and odd world that we live in with the startup and VC world.
It's almost like you have to pick, it's like a lottery, but you have to keep picking winning numbers.
Right. Over and over again.
Yeah.
But what's also not talked about, though, is the person that's picking is actually getting better at picking, unlike an actual lottery where the person has the same skill set even after the 5th win.
That's right.
It's all due to luck, not with venture.
No.
And you actually learn.
And if you get better and better and better at it, the winning lottery larger numbers actually come to you more.
Right.
And so
they're like, hey, this is it.
Yeah, this is it.
This is going to be the jackpot.
Yeah.
I like the analogies.
Yeah.
Metaphors, analogies, I'm all about. Okay, so the thesis is kind of scattered around, but do you have a focus, let's say?
Yeah, I like things that have hard moats. So anything that's like hard technical, hard engineering, things where it's very clear that competitors can't replicate it. Anything that's an unfair advantage, and that manifests in many different ways, whether it's technology,
give a real life example. I know you're saying technology, traction, but like give an actual example of a moat that you invested in. You're like, this is clearly a moat.
I did one last year, and in the world of AI, everything that's software becomes sort of a commodity. Everyone can develop something very, very quickly now. So there's like this noise. But if I'm still angel investing, what is the thing that is above that noise? It becomes something that AI can't easily replicate. And so one company came by and they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna put warehouses in space, and we can, from those warehouses, we can deliver anything that we're warehousing to any point on the planet within 30 minutes.
That's wild.
Right? And so we're like, that sounds really hard. AI can't replicate that, right? You need like real engineering, you need like government contracts, you need space rockets. So I invested in that.
Okay.
Maybe like a month later, they signed like an $80 million deal with like Space Force. And then so the company's called like Inversion Space.
Okay.
And so they're doing that. They're creating like little warehouses globally, and that can house things, maybe like humanitarian efforts, maybe weapons, whatever it is. But within 30 minutes to an hour, it can show up anywhere on the planet.
That's super exciting. Right? That's really cool stuff.
Hard to replicate, right? How do you get a government contract? How do you get warehouses in the
That's
sky,
a moat,
right? Yeah,
that's clearly a moat.
That's a moat.
Not only just like the technology and innovation and probably traction that they had, but also like the contracts on top of that.
Yeah.
Like you're not replicating that. And if you are, it's going to take you a long time.
Yeah. So it's like, so someone has to be able to think about that. They have to build all that out, the relationships. So it's if that starts taking off, and that's before the contract, then the moat will just get wider and wider.
Right.
So I look for that as well. Is there like a growing moat?
Growing moat. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Growing moat. Okay, so with the latest, by the way, every time I talk to you, literally every time I talk to you, you have something new that's on fire. In a good way, not fire in a bad way, by the way. It's on fire in a good way. Talk about the newest, what's going on underneath the hood, where you're at, if you raise venture, and what you plan on doing in the next year or two with it.
Cool. Latest company is called Reasoner. And the last 2 years, we built this company originally called Patented. And it was to solve legal litigation around IP and patents.
Right.
We used every single AI stack out there. AI stack for like RAG, GraphRag, vector database, using Neo4j, all the things that are very latest in the AI stack space. We tried. We couldn't achieve the precision and accuracy that our customers needed. It's in litigation. Every meaning of the word matters. About a year ago, Apple got a lawsuit, Massimo versus Apple. And it was about the Apple Watch and like the blood oximeter, detection thing. And it came down to one word, the meaning of the word of protrusion. And in the patent filing and all of the documents that led up to it and all the documents after it, it really clearly defined what protrusion meant. It's like it has in that world, the concave enclosure, 4 holes for an LED. So we built using every single AI stack that was out there that was known. And there were so many. You have custom models, you have RAG, GraphRag, Neo4j, knowledge graphs, context windows, all kinds of things that you need to build in order to do AI apps. None of it achieved the precision and accuracy that we really needed. So we had to build our own. And we did. And 2 things happened when that happened. One, within the same quarter in which we achieved that technological breakthrough, the patented app got 1.8 million in revenue bookings. And then 2, it turns out that that alternative approach is actually applicable beyond just the niche of litigation. You can actually use it in science, you can use it in nutrition, you can use it in health, you can use it in any application where traceability and accuracy and precision matters. The engine actually works there, and we tested it, and we had experts in other fields verify the results of it. And so Q4, we spent taking the engine out of patented, making the focus of the company that, and then now we're deploying this in very serious applications that other companies are having same trouble we ran into. We actually have the solution for that.
So your TAM just blew up overnight.
Huge.
But why? But you're a smart dude. Why didn't you do that from the beginning, where you're not just applying it to litigation, you're applying it to, like you said, more of a universal approach? Why didn't you do that from the beginning?
There's a lot of money in litigation.
Yep.
There's a lot of money in patent litigation. You're talking each case has billions of dollars going back and forth. There's very little technology with that. We didn't set out to build that engine. We set out to capitalize on that vertical. And then it turns out in order to do that, we had to build this engine. And then I'd love to do what I call like re-synthesize the world. And so every so often I do like a mental compression of the new information that's out there. That's how I find trends. That's how I find things.
Got it.
And so then when I did a re-synthesis of everything we've built so far, all the value, yes, the patented demo app is still viable today. Anything related to, hey, I have a patent, I want to see if there's any potential licensees out there, or I want to prove my case, or I defend against patent trolls, it still works. But we're putting very little effort into just that vertical, because when I re-synthesized the world and I realized no one else solved it, and there's a huge, almost like a silent epidemic happening in every single AI stack, every engineer, every single company that's trying to build their own AI app, every time that in businesses where there's like, they need something that's accurate, and they need to be able to trust, hey, how did it go from this random input of files, and I ask it a question, and the answer is 42. How did it get 42? That's a black box. And so our colloquial thing is like, for reasoners, like from black box to glass box. And you get to see,
like that.
Yeah, you get to see everything. Yeah.
Is that one of the taglines somewhere?
Yeah,
yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Sounds
very catchy, right?
Yeah, it's really catchy.
You can imagine the visuals of it. It's like a black box, and all of a sudden, poof, it lights up. Yeah.
So what you keep saying we. You've said that a couple of times. We.
Yeah.
Who is we? Who is these people that you have on board in the early stages that are helping you build X, Y, Z? Like, what is their positions? What is their relationship to you? Are they co-founders?
One of the things that I found really helpful for team mentality is like I speak more in the we sense.
Yes.
So when I talk about the company, it's like a we, or the team, it's like a we, less than I, right?
As you should.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, who is the early team with you, or are you always solo doing this?
No. So I've for the last 2 years, I've artificially constrained the team on purpose. Small teams move really fast. If in companies pre-seed. So as a founder in pre-seed, my job and my duty to my investors is to find the best opportunity to build the greatest value in the least amount of time.
Yep.
Right. So that's my goal. And so when we talked in the last 2 years, you're seeing iterations of that as we're getting a signal, and we're getting strong signal. But we want this. We want to make sure it checks all the boxes.
Yes.
And so Reasoner is the one that is the culmination of all of the work of the last 2 years. We raised about $4.5 million in pre-seed. That's without any code. That's without anything. And now there's a lot of inbound now, a lot of interest around.
And if you're wondering, it's very tough to raise a $4.5 million at pre-seed if you don't have a track record. But if you do have a track record, it's usually like a snap of your fingers. Yeah. Obviously,
we're very fortunate.
Yeah. Right. So here's my question to you. You're an OG in 0 to 1, I would say. That's your jam.
Yeah.
1 to 2 is a little different, but I feel like you love that innovation portion. You love to build out the teams. You love to test the product. You love to see how far you can push something in the early stages, right?
Yeah.
What happens with, and this is like I don't know, tell me if it's too personal. What happens to the vesting?
Yeah.
Like if you're not there long enough,
Yeah.
and let's say you're there for 3 years or whatever, it's a 4-year vesting. What happens? Like, how does that work with your vesting schedules with any companies that you're a part of?
Thankfully, I'm not a jumper, so I've never encountered that. I've always stayed.
You always vested.
Always vested. All
Okay.
4 years. It was really tough at Twitter, to be honest. So, so like you said, I'm founder mode.
Yep.
I'm 0 to 1
Yep.
founder mode guy. You know, sprint. Get the most signal, drive action. You know,
Yep.
Brian from Coinbase, or there's another one from Airbnb. Someone said something where it's like, you need to keep doing action in order to get that feedback.
Brian Shefsky.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so like Brian, so, you know, keep driving action, founder mode. I love that. Twitter, when they acquired us, was not founder mode.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it was,
I could guess.
Bureaucracy.
Oh, yeah.
It was just like TPS reports.
Yep.
Right. It's like, what do you do here? You know, that kind of thing. Right. And so I remember the last couple of years there was much more painful. I could only do the first 1 or 2 years, and then suddenly the bureaucracy really hit. So the last 2 years was really a struggle.
Who's your most, like if you had to say the most interesting person you've met in the past 5 or 6 years, which I think you've met a lot of people that are interesting, who would that be? Richard Branson or someone different?
Most interesting person in the last few years?
Yeah.
I was fortunate to meet Naval, who's an investor in the company. But I met him before he became Naval.
Yeah, it was like pre-Naval.
Pre-Twitter
Naval.
Pre-Twitter Naval.
Yeah.
Right. And that was really cool. Just seeing like who he was before, and then seeing like the way he's done it now. There's a lot of great people that I've been very fortunate to meet, but it's how they've changed over time and how they are clearer thinkers and how they communicate much more clearly. Clarity in communication is such an underrated skill.
It is.
Yeah.
You know what else is underrated skill?
No.
EQ and emotional control.
Yes, huge.
If you're a first-time founder and you haven't mastered this yet, you will throw in the towel within 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
If you mastered this, and usually like seasoned founders understand this better, these things don't even faze you.
Yeah.
It's like, even if you have a high during the day, you realize it and you celebrate it, minimally.
Yeah.
But the lows don't affect you like they used to.
Yeah.
You just power through.
Yeah. It's experience, right? It's like just everyone's history. It's like what used to be a level 10 problem, right? Now becomes a level 1 problem.
Yeah.
And it continuously does that. So the very first time you encounter, hey, a partnership agreement or a VC term sheet, it's like, what is this? And then now that we've done, many term sheets, even if we issue our own or if we receive them, not really even an issue anymore.
Right. Last time you spoke at Founder Fest in Miami with some great people, by the way, that were included in that event for camp. I remember you said something that kind of stuck with me. This happens a lot. Like in different events, I'm always like, I take a little bit tidbits here and there. You're talking about how busy work is a lot different than, I'm quoting you, paraphrasing you, than actual work. And you never want to get caught doing the busy work because it's actually shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, it's actually, I don't call it busy work. I call it fake work.
Fake work, there you go, sorry.
Fake work. And it's something I say every single day.
You do.
Fake work is the cancer to productivity. It seems productive, it feels good doing it.
Give me an example. Like, when did you catch yourself doing it in the past couple of years? You're like, oh, damn it, I just need to stop doing that.
When founders, in founder mode, you get really excited about something and it's like, ooh, new, shiny. And so it's like, oh, let me just explore this. But then you're taking resources away from something else that you've already previously committed to. And so like, maybe you shouldn't, or I shouldn't have done that so early. Maybe I should have pushed it down a little bit, really hard on something else earlier. Maybe, or someone on the team, maybe they shouldn't have built this thing to scale to like 1 million users if the very first thing is about, hey, this needs to work for the first 100 users, right? And so the fake work comes if you convince yourself this is necessary, but there's no external proof point that it's actually a real problem that customers are experiencing.
It's made up.
It's made
in
up.
CEO's head.
Yeah, CEO's head, or even the developer's head, or some team members said, yeah, when you click this over here, and over here, and over here, and over here, and over here, oh, this screen needs some work, and that screen might be like three days of work, 5 days of work. But how many people are going to click all the way down there that it needs to be prioritized this week, right? And so then the fake work manifests in not only in what it is, but also the prioritization of when to do it.
And with that word, underline it, prioritization, I think that's another thing that seasoned founders do way better than early, or I should say unseasoned founders, is along with the EQ that we were talking about, they also are amazing with prioritizing, which is why investors typically like seasoned founders, because even though you have a billion things to do every day as a founder, you know what the top 10 are, you know what the top 3 are, and you like shift those appropriately in order to be the most efficient.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're an early stage founder, you don't know. So you're like doing a bunch of things that are wrong and not even on purpose. So I wouldn't even say it's like busy work. It's like you don't even know. And then all of a sudden 3 months goes by and you should have, whatever you completed should have been done in 2 weeks.
A different saying that would be like, if you guys play games, StarCraft or whatever it is. Catan, the build order matters. So are you building something that is for like a version 40, or are you building something that is like right away consumable? And so the order in which you're tackling things matter. And the other thing that we do a lot is the impact effort thing. And so when we or I resynthesize the world, it's listing out all the things without any judgment, just listing out all the things that either it's a problem or something we already built or something we want to do. And then we only score the impact 1 to 5. 5 being like, doing this is going to change everything, right? Impact 1 is like, doing this impacts nothing.
Okay.
And then you do the effort score separately, as in like you hide the impact. And then effort 1 is like, I can do this in 5 minutes. Effort 5 is like, this is going to take a little while, maybe a team, maybe like a couple of weeks to do, right? The best ones are always impact 5, effort 1, and then you're able to always continue. By definition, you're always working on the highest impact thing that takes the least amount of resources or effort. And if you continuously do that, you suddenly have like a SEAL Team 6 that's constantly outperforming your competitors.
You know what I would also add to that?
Yeah.
If there's a third category called reverse.
Yeah.
If it messes up for whatever reason, whatever you're doing, the 5 and the 1, is it reversible on a level 1 through 5?
Yeah.
If it's 5 and it is reversible, there's literally there's no reason why not to do it. Because you can do it fast, it's impactful, but it's reversible if it doesn't work.
It's like the Amazon door metaphor. Like, can you come back? Is this a door that once you enter you can't return, or you can go back and forth?
Right.
And if you can go back and forth, you should make those decisions quicker.
Sure.
But if it's a one-way door, you might want to think a little bit harder.
Exactly. Yeah. Like if it's problematic, and you'd be like, oh, we can take that back. And like in startup land, that's the name of the game because you're testing stuff. It's innovation. It's early stages. Corporate land, they don't usually care about this stuff as much. It's less talked about.
And so there's, for the audience, there is a hack here. And I'm all about hacks in terms of like, I used to be a hacker back in the day. Still are. And my commencement speech was hack the system. So it's always about these things where with very little effort, you can get outsized results. That's what I think like productivity hacks are. There's a hack here where as a startup, you have to lean into your unfair advantages. And your unfair advantage is that you don't have the bureaucracy or the red tape or anything like that. And so you have speed and you have the ability to do things where you can't do it in a corporate environment. And so your build order matters. And so that means like, should you be the guy, should your entire team in that environment where you have speed and you have impact advantages, do you really want to spend that on like forget email? Do you really want to spend that on like an analytics dashboard for yourself? Or can you buy that? And then can your team build the things that you can't buy?
Right.
And that's the difference. That's the delta that separates great startups from bad startups, is they only build the things that they can't buy.
Right. What is product market fit to you? Because a lot of people, it almost seems ambiguous to a certain extent. A lot of people have different terminology for it. What does it mean to you? And tell me a time that you felt it. Like what happened in that moment or that day or that week that around that time of product market fit. So what does it mean to you? Talk about a time that it happened.
My definition of product market fit is probably skewed very differently than others. I've been told that. For me, I have one life. I'm not going to live here forever. And so if my goal is I want to be as impactful as possible, then I need to make sure that everything I'm involved with is, these enormous asteroids or comets that are hitting the planet, like making the greatest creators possible. And so for me, product market fit is something that can achieve that either through impact or through user distribution or through installs or something like that. And so when we felt it was, I'll just say one of the recent ones, Crashlytics.
Yep.
Here was our value proposition. Hey, your app's crashing. Why don't you put our beta SDK? Again, we're a smaller company. We're not even out of beta yet, and we weren't out of beta until after Twitter acquired us, and that was also a hack, by the way. But we want you to put our beta code into your app. However, and then your response, and we heard this in the early days, it takes 2 weeks for us to submit our app to Apple and for Apple to review the code and to approve it. So why would I install your beta code into my app? Like I don't want to infect my app, right? And so the PMF triggered when Delta was one of the examples. Delta installed our app, our SDK into their app. And I remember checking into the Delta, one of the Delta terminals. And I remember thinking oh wow, every single person who's using the app right now to do a mobile check-in, they're pinging our servers, right? And then I saw another one where it's Groupon installed it, and then we saw a bunch of crashes in their European office, something like that, where Facebook installed it, and within 2 days, all 4 iOS Facebook teams installed it on their systems. So when you see that momentum, despite the instability of the beta label, or despite the where's your SOC 2 compliance? Show me your security protocols, right?
Yeah.
When they start throwing all of these red tape that they themselves have those are all fake, by the way. Those are all fake reasons to not adopt. When someone really wants something,
they're going to do it.
They're going to
figure out a way.
Right? The BlackBerry is a great example. Why would you send your entire corporate email communications to Canada so that BlackBerry, because in order for it to work, all BlackBerry communications had to go to Canada servers where BlackBerry was, and then they coordinate everything. But it was because the executives were like, this device, this little Crackberry thing is amazing. I need it. Suddenly, all of the security concerns just went out the window. That's PMF. It's when they start removing all of the reasons for you of why they shouldn't use it, that the pain you're solving is so great that they would want to crawl to you or beg you for access, and they want it right now. They're upset that they haven't got access yet. That's when you hit a nerve.
I love that.
That is it.
This is I feel like an important piece to highlight. Product market fit, although it might mean something else to someone else, for you it's forget the bureaucracy, forget the red tape, forget all the reasons why we have in place for the past 15, 20 years or whatever, that we can't work with this little rinky-dink startup. Yeah. Let's figure out how we can quickly, because we need what they're selling. Exactly. Whatever they have, we need it.
Yeah. And so the pain you're solving is so good that they are upset that they don't get access, and you don't have to sell them. You don't have to say, here's all the things, please buy from me. It inverses, and they're like, can you prioritize me on your wait list?
I recently went through something, not to this extent, of course, but a similar story with me. So with Camp, we started doing private events in the past 8 to 9 months. Yeah. And for the private events, they range from anywhere from 15 to 30 grand. And we started doing it for communities first, and then we did it for people, for all hands and leadership, executives, all that stuff. Then we started doing it for prospects. And with the prospects thing, that's where it blew up in the past month and a half. And why I'm telling you this is because there was someone that booked it, and he booked it for $22,000 for this event. They had 35 prospects in one room. They closed 2 contracts, and to them $400K per contract for $800K. So 22 grand, 800K.
Amazing return.
They came back to us and they said, we want to spend our whole marketing budget with you guys for 2025. So now we're talking a lot bigger of a number, and they want to commit and move it from digital to in person because they're seeing that they close business faster. So what I called that to the team is blue magic. Have you ever seen
American
Gangster?
Yes.
Product market fit is blue magic.
Yeah.
Is when they don't care what's in that bag.
They
that
want
heroin
it.
bag, they want it.
Yep.
And people are telling people, so now they're going to come to us for it.
Yep. And then and what you just said is like there's people only buy if you're either saving them money, making them money, or making them look good, right? That's basically it.
Yeah, those are 3 pretty good points.
That's it, right? And so like if you're making them money and you already proved it to them, they're gonna be like, this makes total sense, right? And so you align your value prop directly to what matters most.
Right.
It's not a vitamin anymore. You're not selling vitamins.
Not anymore.
It's like a paint. They're like, wait, every time we spend 22K with Phil, we are able to get hundreds of thousands of contract value. How many times can we spend with Phil? And then now you have a new problem. It's like, how do we slot all these people in, right?
Yeah, there's a bunch of new problems that we're dealing with now for this year. We have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because this is only, this prospecting thing is only like 2 months in, but now we're like, how do we scale this?
Yeah.
Like, how do we even handle their new budget?
Doesn't it feel good though?
It feels great, but it's also, it's a little scary, but it's exhilarating.
Yeah.
And now my job is to figure out how to do it. And you've done this time and time again. So this leads me to my next question. When you have this feeling, like, what do you do to have clarity and then execute as needed? Because it's a crazy feeling.
It is a totally different playbook. So if you don't have this feeling, the default is, I need to go out there and I'm going to do some outbound sales, some outbound marketing, some outbound whatever. When you have this and you have the data to prove it and you feel it and you have all of this, you have to switch your mentality. It's all inbound now. You know they're coming to you. And so your motions aren't, oh, how many more people can I get this to? Your motions are, how can I turn this inbound signal so that each time that they're using my service, there's a greater than 50% chance they might bring a colleague, or they might bring another business, or they might spread it. So that's a great problem you have right now, is because they're coming to you. Your mentality needs to be, how do I turn that person that's coming to me, how do I get him to recommend this to 6 of his other founder buddies? Right? And then you build like little journeys for them. You build like, mystery or intrigue or FOMO, or you build like, exclusivity. If you know they're coming to you, you have all the power.
Sure.
And you can say, I only have 3 slots, and then, they only have, they're at this range or whatever. Or if you want to bring someone else, like there's a lot more creativeness because the power dynamic shifts over to you.
For sure. Like it's all about leverage in a lot of these cases. For instance, scarcity is obviously one of them. Playing on emotions is another one. And I think that like this goes along with venture too, just like with like doing deals, whether it's a venture capitalist or a founder pitching a venture capitalist. A lot of the leverage is also on who needs it less in the room, right? If you're raising $5 million, but you have Sequoia and other people in your corner willing to throw dollars at you. If you're meeting with Coastal Ventures or Founders Fund, they're going to want in way more than if you had nothing in back of you.
Yep, exactly. You're in a very privileged position, and you should enjoy that feeling, because it's very few people can achieve that PMF feeling. And so when you get that feeling, you get that buzz, you get that like, oh wow, like we don't have to convince other people. It's very clear they're coming to us.
Right.
You're in rarefied air at that moment. So first, like, enjoy it. You've worked really, really hard to do that. And then the second thing is like your mentality shifts, and it's now like inbound driven. So it's congratulations.
It's like the blue magic.
It's like blue magic.
So if you had to sum up your career in startups and venture capital and angel investing, what would you say? Like, what are you drawn to? I know that you love innovation. I know that you love shaking industries up. But like, what are some like things like that you would be honest with yourself about? Like, here's what I learned. Bad things, here. The great things, here.
If I'm connecting the dots and drawing a line backwards, the cost of starting something continues to lower. It used to be infrastructure costs, you now people costs. Now with AI, you even you can still do huge things with very little small teams, or even yourself. It comes down to the quality of the problem. It comes down to like, are you spending your personal time in the most impactful way possible?
Yeah.
Or are you in the hustle mentality of like, I just want to make a quick buck, or I just want to make a side business? You know, the clarity of the why behind what you're doing is going to be the lens in which you choose your problems. So if you don't have clarity on the why behind it, you're not going to be a good selector of problems. And usually then people at that very first stage of selection of the selection of the problem they're solving gets pretty erratic. I want to do a mom and pop business. I want to do a bakery business, or I'm going to do a side e-commerce business or something like that. But there's no real why behind it.
Right.
Crystallize the why. That then informs literally everything else. And so I found that really early on. I want to make the highest impact. I'm going to live very short. I want to make as many as possible. That right there is like the lens in which I look through everything.
Crystallize the why. All right, last question for you.
Yeah.
Legacy. It's a big word, especially for high achievers. What do you want? Do you believe in legacy in general? And if so, what do you want yours to be, given what you just said?
This is going to be disappointing to your audience.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't believe in legacy.
A lot of people don't that are high achievers.
Yeah, there's billions of people on the planet. Who do you know? Who do you even think about from like 100 years ago?
There's like 3 people maybe.
Yeah.
If
right?
that.
Yeah. So like, why would I even spend my time? I'm gonna be dead.
Yes.
Right. Why would I spend the time when I'm not dead worrying about what other people in the future are thinking about me?
For sure.
Right. That doesn't matter. So I don't do anything for legacy. I think that's a false premise. I do things that are morally correct, whatever that means to every individual person. That's ethically aligned, that aligns my own values and achieves like the impact goal. Things that I find interesting, things that I find like unusual, things that are life experiences. Like those are awesome things. But legacy, I think, is like if you're making your choices on legacy, I would find a greater purpose in that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And I actually had this discussion with Shane, who was a past podcast guest. He said actually the same thing. But this is what I told him that I would probably tell you too.
Yeah.
Legacy, especially like for whatever males are obsessed with, like the word legacy and all that, the high achievers. Yeah. What I think is BS is what you said is like from a business standpoint. Yeah. But once you have actual children, you understand that legacy means something different. Yeah. Yeah. Because even though you're gone, no one's going to remember your business probably, 99.9999% of the time, 50, 30, 100, 200 years from now. But if you actually teach your kids the right things and you like are there for them and, you do all the things that a parent should do, that lives on throughout those kids, the grandchildren, etc.
Who is this Phil that I'm speaking to?
Philosopher. I'm like a lighter skinned Naval, I feel like,
I
with
love
tattoos.
I love that.
Yeah.
You're a recent dad, right? So that's achiever. I'm not there yet, right? Yep. And so this feels like a different Phil that I'm speaking to at the moment.
It's true.
Like a dad.
I put the champagne down and now I'm just like talking about children. It's true.
It's good.
It is life changing though, for real.
Yeah.
It's like
maybe that's the thing that I'm missing that might change my definition of legacy.
That's so true.
And so like once I have a family, then that might change how I feel about that.
That's true. And I'm only talking from experience.
Yeah. Good experience.
Right. It's great experience. And it also teaches you time efficiency. Time efficiency like no other.
Are you also saying that you don't get enough sleep? Is that what I'm hearing?
Kind of, yeah. In a way, yes. But your time becomes even more finite than before. And you have to prioritize even higher and get things done more efficiently with shorter spurts. Yeah. Which is wild.
Or you do what Elon does.
What does he do?
And then you have many different wives, and they're the ones that are taking care of them, right?
I feel like this is strategic. Live that Mormon lifestyle, get 6 wives. Yeah, it's strategic. What do you want to leave the audience with? If you had to like tell them one thing that's someone's like getting into entrepreneurship, they're trying to raise venture capital, they're trying to change the world, what would you just say to them for like a goodbye message?
Focus on the moat, making sure that the problem you solve is super high quality, and then just keep focusing on the things that you can't buy, so that when you're building something, it's by definition unique. You do that, and you're already way ahead of everyone else.
Take that to the bank, number one. Number two, thank you so much for allowing us in your home today. It's beautiful. Thanks to Rachel. Thanks to the crew here. And episode 6, Wayne Chang, will be dropping soon. If you're watching this right now, hopefully you liked it. Just wait for episode 7. I'll announce the guest very soon. Thanks for hanging with us today. And of course, once again, thank you, Mr. Chang. You've been an awesome guest, friend, but also your insights are just like unmatched. So I'm always just wowed every time I'm here.
Thank you, Philosopher Phil.
Philosopher Phil is out.